I never thought I'd end up in the back of a squad car, handcuffs biting into my wrists like the betrayal they represented, all because my sister decided spite was a better sister than blood ever was. That night, as the red and blue lights painted my face in the rearview mirror, I whispered her name, Lila, like a curse, promising myself that the truth she'd buried deeper than our father's coffin would rise up and choke her. But the real shock? When the cops cracked open her perfect little lie, they didn't just free me. They unearthed the monster she'd made me cover for, and suddenly, revenge tasted less like justice and more like the family poison we'd both been sipping since we were kids. It started in that godforsaken strip mall in Reno, Nevada, where dreams go to die under the glare of neon signs hawking payday loans and all-you-can-eat buffets. I was 37, scraping by as a paralegal in a firm that specialized in divorces dirtier than the Tahoe snow after ski season. Cheating spouses, hidden assets, the kind of American tragedy that pays the bills but eats your soul. Lila, 2 years my junior, had always been the golden child, the one who married up, popped out 2 kids with private school uniforms, and posted Instagram reels of family barbecues that screamed, "Look at me. I've got it all figured out." Me? I was the screw-up, the one who dropped out of community college after Dad's heart attack, the one who'd shouldered the debt and the dirty work when Mom walked out for a salesman with a timeshare in Florida. We grew up in a double-wide on the outskirts of Sparks, where the Humboldt River whispered secrets to the cottonwoods, and our old man worked double shifts at the casino, coming home reeking of smoke and regret. He wasn't a bad dad, just broken, like the bottle he nursed after Mom left. Lila and I, we were his anchors, or so he said. But anchors sink ships, and one night when I was 16 and she was 14, Dad didn't come home at all. That's when the secret started, the one that bound us tighter than any sisterly love. I remember the knock at the trailer door like it was yesterday, sharp, insistent, the kind that makes your stomach drop. It was 2 a.m., and Lila was curled up on the couch, thumb in her mouth like she was 5 again, even though puberty had hit her like a freight train. I cracked the door, chain still latched, and there he was, not Dad, but a ghost of him. Deputy Harlan, all-starched uniform and mustache that twitched like it had a mind of its own. "Evelyn," he said, voice gravelly from 2 mini Marlboros, "your pa's in trouble. Big trouble." Turns out, Dad had gotten mixed up with the wrong crowd at the Nugget. High-stakes poker with some out-of-town sharks who didn't take kindly to marked cards. But it wasn't just gambling debt. No, that would have been too clean for our family's brand of chaos. Harlan spilled it low and slow. Dad had been running small-time errands for the crew. Nothing major, just ferrying packages from the back rooms to cars in the lot. Cocaine, cut and bagged like candy for the weekend warriors blowing their paychecks. One drop went south. A kid, barely 20, OD'd in a bathroom stall at a house party off McCarran Boulevard. The heat came down hard, and Dad's name surfaced in whispers. They needed a fall guy, someone disposable, and our old man? He fit the bill. I should have let it play out. Called a lawyer, fought it tooth and nail. But Lila, God, Lila, she looked up at me with those doe eyes, tears carving tracks through the mascara she'd stolen from Mom's vanity, and whispered, "Evie, don't let them take him. We can't lose him too." So I did what any desperate big sister would. I lied. When the investigators came knocking the next day, I planted the seeds. Dad was home all night. I told them, voice steady as a poker face I'd learned from watching him bluff. Working late on the books for the trailer park. And when they pressed about the packages, I buried it deeper, saying I'd seen him with nothing but grocery bags, milk and bread for us girls. Lila nodded along, mute as a lamb, but her hand squeezed mine under the table like a vice. It worked, sort of. Dad walked on a technicality, insufficient evidence, and the case fizzled like a dud firework on the 4th. But the cost? It hollowed me out. I carried that lie like a tumor, growing with every family dinner where Lila laughed too loud, every hug she gave Dad that felt like a knife twist. She knew what I'd done, knew I'd perjured myself to keep our fractured little world intact, but she never said a word. Never thanked me. Just sailed off to college on a scholarship she earned by being the pretty one. The one who charmed her way into a sorority and then into the arms of Bradley, the trust fund kid from Marin County who whisked her away to a life of yoga classes and PDA meetings. Years passed in that hazy Reno blur, me grinding through law classes at night while clerking days, Dad sinking deeper into the bottle until it finally claimed him in a motel room off I-80, pills scattered like confetti. Lila? She was at the funeral in pearls and a black sheath dress that cost more than my monthly rent, consoling Bradley while I shoveled dirt on the casket alone. You were always the strong one, Evie, she cooed, air-kissing my cheek. Strong one. Yeah, right. Strong enough to lie for her hero, to watch her build a castle on the sand I'd bled to hold back the tide. Fast forward to last spring, when the cracks finally spiderwebbed through her perfect facade. Bradley's firm, some Silicon Valley offshoot peddling AI ethics consulting, hit a snag. Whispers of insider trading, nothing proven, but enough to make the SEC sniff around. Lila, ever the loyal wife, played the part. Tearful interviews with the local news, bake sales for his legal defense fund. But behind closed doors, she cracked. Called me at 2 a.m., voice slurred from Chardonnay she'd probably smuggled in her Kate Spade tote. Evie, I can't do this. The kids. What if they take everything? I drove down from Reno that weekend, 3 hours through the sagebrush flats, blasting Springsteen to keep the demons at bay. Found her in their McMansion off the golf course, mascara-streaked, and pacing the marble foyer like a caged panther. What do you need? I asked, because that's what sisters do, even when the scales tip crooked. She needed an alibi, she said. Bradley had been at a meeting the night the trades went down, a clandestine powwow with a venture capitalist in a suite at the Bellagio. But the timestamps didn't match his phone pings, and the wife of the VC was talking to avoid her own splash. Lila wanted me to vouch for him. Say you were on the phone with him, Evie. Late-night chat about Dad's estate. Please. I stared at her, the girl who'd let me rot in silence for 2 decades, now begging me to lie again. For her husband, the prick who'd once called me trailer trash at a family Easter brunch. My gut twisted, but old habits die hard. Fine, I said. But this is the last time. It wasn't. The feds dug deeper, and my name popped up. Not just as the sister-in-law with a convenient call log, but as the paralegal who'd once clerked for a firm tangentially linked to the casino crew Dad ran with. Coincidence? Hell no. They pulled old files, dusted off that ancient OD case, and suddenly, my perjury from '98 was breathing down my neck like a bad debt collector. Lila knew. Of course she knew. She'd tipped them off anonymously. A concerned family member let her slip into the evidence pile, painting me as the weak link, the one who'd covered for felonies before. Spite. It was surgical. Bradley's mess was spiraling, and she needed a scapegoat to trade for leniency. Me, the eternal fixer, now the fall girl. The arrest came swift as a Nevada dust storm. Cops at my door at dawn, badges flashing like cheap jewelry. Evelyn Harper, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice and perjury. I didn't fight, just let them cuff me, my mind already turning like the tumblers in a slot machine. Lila was there in the station later, all wide-eyed innocence, hugging me through the bars. I didn't mean for this, Evie. It just happened. Bullshit. Her eyes darted to the detective's desk, where my file lay open like a gutted fish. That's when the hook sank deepest. As they processed me, fingerprinting my ink-stained hands, the lead investigator, a grizzled vet named Kowalski with a Polish accent thick as pierogies, paused at the old case notes. Harper, huh? Your pop was in that casino bust back in the day. Walked free on a sister's word. He eyed me sideways, then flipped a page. Funny thing, we never closed it clean. That kid who OD'd? His dealer turned states, but the drop-off driver. Ghosted. I kept my face blank, but inside, the gears ground. Lila's secret, the one she'd buried with Dad, was clawing its way up. She hadn't just watched me lie. She'd been the one ferrying those packages half the time, the errands Dad sent her on because she was too young to suspect. I'd covered for both of them, thinking it was just him. But the logs, the witness statements buried in archives, they'd point straight to her pretty little hands if anyone cared to dig. Released on bail by noon, courtesy of a public defender who smelled the rot, I walked out into the blistering sun, vowing on every scorched mile back to Reno that Lila's empire of lies would crumble brick by bloodless brick. Revenge isn't a sprint. It's a marathon through the desert, and I was just lacing up my boots. The drive back to Reno felt like purgatory on wheels, the blacktop shimmering under the relentless sun, as if the highway itself was mocking my unraveling life. My old Subaru wheezed like an asthmatic chain smoker, the AC long since surrendered to the July heat. and every mile marker ticked off like a countdown to confrontation. Lila's call came at mile 47, just past the state line ghost town of Empire, voicemail, because of course she'd chickened out on a live pickup. Evie, honey, this is all a misunderstanding. Meet me at the old diner off 395. We need to talk. For the girls' sake. The girls. Her daughters, my nieces, pawns in her endless game of emotional chess. I deleted it without replying, but I went anyway. Not for her. For the truth, I'd let fester too long. The diner was a relic from the Route 66 glory days. Chrome stools bolted to a Formica counter scarred by decades of trucker knives and heartbroken initials. It smelled of burnt coffee and fryer grease, the jukebox crooning Patsy Cline like a siren call to better yesterdays. Lila was in our old booth, the one with the cracked vinyl that stuck to your thighs in summer, nursing a milkshake that had probably gone warm. She looked smaller than I remembered, 35 going on fragile, her blonde highlights frizzing in the humidity, the designer blouse untucked like she'd dressed in haste. Evie, she breathed as I slid in opposite, her manicured nails drumming the table like Morse code for panic. You set me up, I said, no preamble, voice low enough not to spook the waitress wiping down the pie case. It wasn't a question. The anonymous tip had her floral stationery scent all over it, the kind that lingers like regret. Her eyes welled up, theatrical as a soap opera close-up. I was scared, okay? Bradley's facing 10 years if they don't cut a deal, and the feds. They kept asking about family ties to organized crime. Your name came up in the old files, Dad's thing. I thought if I just nudged them toward you, it'd buy time. Nudged. Like tipping a domino that crushes your sister's career. You're the tough one, Evie. You could handle it. Talk your way out, like always. Like always. The words landed like a sucker punch, dredging up the trailer park nights when I'd shield her from Dad's rages, or the high school dances where I'd lend her my only decent dress while she flirted with quarterbacks who called me that weird goth chick. But this was beyond sibling rivalry. It was matricide of the soul. You remember what always cost me? I leaned in, the salt shakers between us feeling like inadequate barriers. I lied for Dad for us, and you let me carry it alone. She flinched, glancing at the door as if expecting the feds to burst in with warrants and warrants for her warrants. That was forever ago. Water under the bridge, right? Family sticks together. Her smile was brittle, the kind plastered on influencers hawking essential oils during a divorce. But I saw the flicker, the fear that Kowalski's digging might unearth more than my perjury. Because Lila hadn't just been a bystander in Dad's side hustle. She'd been complicit, the pretty couriers slipping baggies into glove compartments during her after-school jobs at the casino gift shop. I could have spilled it right there, watched her milkshake curdle with the weight of exposure. But revenge, real revenge, isn't a diner confessional. It's a slow poison, American style, brewed in the backrooms of bureaucracy and betrayal. Sure, sis, I said instead, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Family first. But you're gonna make this right. Starting with a statement to my lawyer, retract that tip, say it was a mix-up. Relief washed over her like cheap tequila, and she nodded too eagerly, already plotting her next pivot. That's Lila, the chameleon, flipping skins faster than a Vegas showgirl. By the time I left, she'd sworn on the girls' heads to fix it, but I knew better. Her texts started blowing up my phone as I hit Reno city limits. Excuses layered thicker than sunscreen at Burning Man. Bradley's lawyer says it's complicated. The feds want immunity. I can't just walk it back. And the kicker, Evie, if this blows up, it'll destroy the girls. Think about them. Think about them. As if I hadn't spent holidays mailing Barbie dream houses and college funds scraped from my overtime, all while she summered in Tahoe. That night, holed up in my one-bedroom off Plum Lane, the walls thin enough to hear the neighbors' arguments bleed through like bad radio static. I cracked open the laptop and started my own investigation. Not the flashy CSI bullshit, but the gritty, Google Fu grind of public records and archived news clips. The OD case from '98 was a goldmine of redacted glory. Witness statements from cocktail waitresses who'd seen a young blonde girl in Dad's truck, timestamps matching Lila's summer shifts. No charges. Kids don't go down for mules back then, especially not ones with daddy issues. But the dots connected like a neon outline of her complicity. Deeper dives pulled up Bradley's scandals too, not just the trades, But whispers of affairs with interns young enough to be his daughters, settlements hushed with NDAs that my paralegal access could poke holes in. Lila knew, of course. Her spite wasn't born in a vacuum. It was fermented in the slow rot of a marriage where she played the victim to his villain, and I was the convenient collateral. But the real dirt? A sealed juvenile file from Lila's high school days, a shoplifting bust at a Macy's in Meadowood Mall, expunged because Dad pulled strings with a crooked judge. Strings tied to the same casino crew. She'd skated free, but the paper trail lingered like cigarette smoke in curtains. By dawn, my kitchen table was a war map. Printouts pinned with thumbtacks, highlighters bleeding yellow across timelines. I wasn't just avenging my arrest. I was exhuming the family crypt, dragging Lila's skeletons into the light she'd always hogged. First move, anonymous tips of my own, funneled through a burner email to Kowalski's tip line. Not enough to indict, yet, but enough to make the feds widen their net. Cast lines into waters she'd thought frozen over. Weeks blurred into a tense standoff. Lila kept up the facade. Brunch invites laced with guilt trips, care packages of artisanal soaps from her boutique that smelled like desperation. Bradley's case dragged, plea deals floating like mirages, and my own charges? Suspended pending review, thanks to a sharp public defender who'd sniffed the setup. But the pressure built like thunderheads over the Sierras. Lila started calling more, voice edging toward hysteria. Evie's not answering. What if she's doing something stupid? She'd hissed to mutual cousins, as if I were the loose cannon. Then came the flip, the first of her masterful pivots. A late-night knock at my door, rain sheeting down like God's own judgment. There she stood, soaked to the bone, no makeup armor, eyes hollowed by whatever fresh hell Bradley had unleashed. He cheated, she sobbed, collapsing into my arms like we were kids again. With that bitch from accounting. And the feds. They know about the old stuff, Evie. They're asking about me now. It was a masterstroke. Play the victim, reel me back in with shared trauma. For a heartbeat, I wavered, the old protector reflex kicking in, urging me to hug her tight and plot our escape to some nowhere town like Winnemucca. But I stepped back, rain dripping from her onto my threshold like tainted baptism. You did this, Lila. You poked the bear. Her face crumpled, then hardened, the chameleon shedding skin. Fine. If that's how you want it, go ahead and burn us all. See what that gets you. She stormed off into the downpour, taillights vanishing like a bad dream. But I knew the game. She'd circle back, always did, with bigger lies and sharper claws. My next play was riskier, a deep dive into her digital life, courtesy of a shady IT guy from the firm who'd owed me a favor since I covered his ass during a client data breach. Screenshots flooded my inbox. Lila's private Facebook group chats with soccer moms turned wine witches, bitching about Bradley's midlife bullshit while plotting alimony angles. And buried in her cloud drive? A folder labeled Contingencies, divorce docs drafted months before the SEC raid, asset splits that left her with the house, the 401k, and me as a character witness. She'd been playing both sides, hedging bets like a bookie at the Derby. The tension coiled tighter, days bleeding into sleepless nights where I'd pace my apartment, the hum of the fridge mocking my isolation. Reno's underbelly started feeling like home again. The dive bars off Wells Avenue where informants nursed IPAs and grudges, the courthouse corridors echoing with the ghosts of cases past. I fed Kowalski crumbs, a tip about the blonde girl from '98, cross-referenced with Lila's old DMV photo. Nothing direct, but enough to make her sweat. Her texts turned frantic. Evie, stop this. You're ruining everything. Ruining? Honey, I was just getting started. And then, the controversial call, the one that split my conscience like a fault line. Bradley reached out through a mutual, off the record, voice greased with desperation. Evelyn, Lila's cracking. If you push harder, she'll drag you both down. Walk away, I'll make it worth your while. A wire transfer offer, 6 figures, enough to buy a fresh start in Portland or Austin. Tempting? Hell yes. But taking it meant becoming her, the schemer, the flipper, trading family for fiat. I hung up, deleted the number, and doubled down. Revenge wasn't about the money. It was about the mirror, forcing her to see the monster we'd both fed. As summer scorched into fall, the noose tightened. Lila's perfect life frayed at the edges. PDA scandals over anonymous rumors of her pill popping, a white lie I seeded via a gossip app. Bradley's bail revoked after a bar fight that screamed domestic implosion. She showed up at my work one Tuesday, barging into the firm's bullpen like a tornado in Lululemon, demanding a sister summit. The partners stared, but I dragged her into the stairwell, concrete echoing our whispers. "What do you want, Lila? Absolution? A do-over? I want you to stop," she hissed, close enough I could smell her Chanel No. 5 mixed with fierce sweat. "This isn't you, Evie. You're the good one." Good one. The lie we'd both clung to, the myth that justified every shortcut. But her eyes betrayed her, the dart to my throat, as if weighing whether to throttle the truth keeper or beg her mercy. That's when I dropped the bomb. "Tell Kowalski the truth about 98. The packages, the girl. Or I will." Her face drained of color, the chameleon frozen mid-shift. For the first time, I saw the real Lila. Not the victim, not the villain, but the scared kid who'd hustled baggies to buy Mom's affection before she bolted. "You wouldn't," she whispered. But we both knew I would. The stairwell hung heavy, the decision hanging between us like smoke from a just-put-out fire. She chose flight, bolted down the stairs, leaving echoes and a single pearl earring on the landing, symbol of the empire crumbling. That night, alone with a bottle of bourbon Dad would have approved of, I questioned it all. Was I the hero, exhuming sins for justice? Or just another Harper, poisoning the well out of spite? The line blurred, American as apple pie a la mode with arsenic. But the momentum carried me forward, toward the climax where sides wouldn't matter, only survival. Fall in Reno hits like a hangover after a bender. Crisp mornings giving way to afternoons that still bake the asphalt, leaves turning gold before the wind strips them bare. I threw myself into the firm's caseload, burying the vendetta under stacks of depositions and discovery motions, but it simmered beneath my skin like a low-grade fever. Lila went radio silent after the stairwell showdown, a void that screamed louder than any plea. No birthday calls for the nieces, no holiday cards with photos of gap-toothed grins. Just crickets and the occasional ping from Kowalski. "Harper, got a lead on that old case. You free for coffee?" Our meets were clandestine, the kind of cloak and dagger that felt ripped from a John Grisham paperback. Neutral ground at a Starbucks off Moana Lane, where the baristas frothed lattes like they were mixing truth serum. Kowalski was old-school Reno PD, built like a retired linebacker gone to seed, with a badge polished from 30 years of chasing shadows. "Your sister's name keeps popping." He grunted over his black drip. "No cream, no sugar. Life's too sweet already." Blonde, early teens, seen with your pop around the drop sites. Ring any bells? I sipped my Americano, bitter as the choices piling up, and played it coy. "Family's complicated, detective. But if you're asking for corroboration." Yeah, she was there. Errands for Dad. Thought it was innocent back then. His bushy brows arched, the hook setting. I fed him dates, locations, pulled from my war map, without handing over the smoking gun. Let him connect the dots. My hands stayed cleanish. Word trickled back through the family grapevine. Cousin Tammy's Facebook rants about Lila's mess dragging us all down. Bradley had lawyered up with a shark from Vegas, the kind who eats plea deals for breakfast, but the feds were circling tighter, sniffing Lila's juvenile file like blood in the water. She flipped again, this time public, a tearjerker post on her neighborhood app. "Navigating family storms with grace. Prayers appreciated." Comments flooded in, a digital lynch mob of wine moms offering casseroles and thoughts. But I knew the pivot. Play martyr, rally the troops, then counterstrike. It came via certified mail, innocuous envelope with her return address, the McMansion that was now foreclosure bait. Inside, a notarized affidavit, Lila's elegant script swearing I'd coerced her into the anonymous tip, painting me as the bitter spinster sabotaging her healing journey. Controversial? Understatement. It hit my inbox the same day as the firm's gossip mill, partners side-eyeing me during meetings, whispers of family drama bleeding into work. I could have lawyered up, countersued for defamation, but that was too clean, too courtly. No, this called for dirtier tricks, the kind that divide a reader between cheers and gasps. Enter Marcus, my IT ghost from the firm, a lanky millennial with a man bun and a moral compass calibrated to gig economy ethics. "You sure about this, Eve?" he asked over encrypted chat, fingers flying across keys in his mom's basement. "Deepfakes are gray area. Cops could trace it." I was sure. The plan, a fabricated video, Lila's face superimposed on stock footage of a nervous confession, grainy cam, anonymous Dropbox upload to a true crime subreddit. Scripted whispers. I set up my sister to cover my tracks from years ago. Drugs, lies. It was me. No face full on, just enough voice modulation to match her yoga purr. Timestamp to sync with Kowalski's probe. Controversial as hell. Tampering with evidence? Close enough to taste the felony. But in the revenge playbook, it's checkmate if it works. It did, spectacularly. The post went viral in under 48 hours, shared by podcasters chasing the next serial hook. Sister betrayal. Was Reno Mom the real mule? Lila's phone must have melted. Reporters staking out her driveway. PDA dissolving like sugar in storm water. She called then, first time in months. Voice a razor wire of rage and ruin. You bitch. That video. It's you, isn't it? Destroying my life for what? Some high school grudge. I let her rant. The words a balm on wounds I'd nursed too long. High school. Try 2 decades of silence while I carried your sins, Lila. Dad's ghost is heavier than you think. She laughed, bitter as burnt toast. Sins? You think you're saintly? Who stayed quiet when Bradley beat me black and blue? You knew, saw the bruises at Thanksgiving 19, and said nothing. For your precious career, right? The accusation landed like a gut shot. I'd seen them. Yeah, the clumsy falls she explained away with wine-slurred excuses. Confronted her once, post-turkey coma, and she flipped. Mind your business, Evie. This is marriage. I'd backed off, fearing I'd push her deeper into the pit. Complicit again, by inaction. The mirror cracked further. No heroes here, just survivors clawing for air. But the momentum was mine now, the investigation snowballing into an avalanche. Kowalski hauled her in for questioning. The old OD case reopened as leverage in Bradley's plea. She lawyered up too, some ambulance chaser from Carson City, but the cracks showed. Bail hearing where she showed up in off-the-rack Sears. No pearls, eyes darting like a cornered coyote. Family court piled on, custody battles with Bradley's camp slinging mud about her instability. Social workers sniffing around the girl's school records for signs of neglect. My own life teetered, the firm putting me on administrative leave, pending the drama's fallout. Polite code for don't tank our rep. Nights blurred into bourbon-fueled what-ifs. What if I'd let Dad rot in 98? What if I'd exposed Lila then? Spared us this circus? Reno's winter wind howled answers through my vents, but none satisfied. The antagonist in me, the schemer she'd birthed, plotted the climax. A face-to-face, no lawyers, just sisters in the ruins. I chose the old trailer park, leveled now for a strip mall that never got built. Empty lot off Audi Boulevard, sagebrush clawing at chain link like forgotten regrets. Dusk on a Tuesday, sky bruising purple, the kind of light that turns sin sepia. She arrived in a rental Civic, downgrade from her Lexus, parking crooked like her resolve. Stepped out in jeans and a hoodie, stripped of armor, looking every bit the girl who'd begged me to lie all those years ago. Evie, she said, voice carrying on the wind. No hug, no tears, just exhaustion etched deep. We paced the perimeter, gravel crunching under Nikes that matched like a twisted twin set. They took the girls. Temporary custody. Said the home environment's toxic. Her laugh was hollow, echoing off the fence. Toxic. Like we weren't raised in a meth lab adjacent paradise. I stopped. Facing her, the lot's weeds whispering accusations. You started this, Lila. The tip, the flips, every time you needed a fall guy, it was me. She met my gaze, unflinching for once, the chameleon molting into something raw. And you? That video, it's fraud, Evie. Felony. You think you're better? You're just like Dad, pulling strings till they snap. The words stung, true as a cattle brand, but I pressed. Confess. To Kowalski, to the court. The 98 runs, the lies. Clear my name, save your kids. It was the controversial crux, the decision that'd split any jury, any reader. Force her hand, risk total collapse, or mercy kill the grudge and let the chips fall familial. She waited, eyes on the horizon where the Peppermill's lights flickered like false promises. If I do, everything ends. Bradley gets the girls full-time, calls me the junkie mom. No alimony, no house. Back to square one. Her voice cracked, the first real fracture. But if I don't, you go down too. Perjury rap, disbarment dreams dashed. We both lose. The wind picked up, carrying dust devils that danced like deranged spirits. I saw it then, the twist neither of us had scripted. In her hand, half hidden in the hoodie pocket, a phone recording our chat. She'd flipped again, baiting me into admission for her own Hail Mary defense. "You sneaky." I lunged, not violent, just desperate, knocking it free. It skittered across gravel, screen cracking like our bond. She dove for it. We grappled, sisters in the dirt, nails raking, breaths ragged. Not a brawl, but a reckoning. "Give it back," she snarled, but I pinned her wrist, the device between us like Excalibur. "No more games, Lila. End this." Tears came then, hot and unfeigned. "I can't. Evie, please. I did it for us. Back then, the money bought Mom's plane ticket home. She came back for a month, remember? Hugs, apologies. It was worth it. The buried secret spilled, not just complicity, but motive. I'd covered for a fairy tale, a desperate bid to glue the family shards. My rage deflated, ballooning into something uglier. Pity, laced with rage's residue. We broke apart, panting in the gathering dark, the phone screen spiderwebbed but salvageable. Her decision hung, the lot silent save for distant traffic hum. "Okay," she whispered finally. "I'll confess. For the girls. Lie or truth." Her eyes said the latter, but the chameleon lurked. As she drove off, taillights fading into the sodium glow, I pocketed the phone. Insurance or theft? The line blurred again. Kowalski called at midnight. "Your sister's turning states. Full disclosure on the old case. Charges against you? Drop. Victory?" It tasted like ash. But the real climax brewed in the courts, where Lila's testimony would either redeem or condemn us both. Winter clamped down on Reno like a vice, snow dusting the Sierras in false purity while the valley floor slushed into gray slop that sucked at your boots. The trailer park lot confrontation lingered like a bruise, tender to the touch, coloring every interaction with Lila's fragile truce. She confessed the next day, voice steady over speakerphone with Kowalski, spilling the 98 sins in clinical detail. The baggies in her backpack, the drops at gas stations off 395, the lie we'd co-built to summon Mom's ghost. "It was me," she said, no tears, just the flat recitation of a woman who'd finally shed the chameleon's skin. Evelyn covered to protect me. I betrayed that. The feds ate it up, leverage gold in Bradley's unraveling empire. His plea deal sweetened overnight. 5 years federal, no extras, while Lila's immunity hinged on full cooperation. Juvenile records unsealed, but slaps on the wrist for a ghost case. My charges? Vaporized, the DA's office issuing a curt, insufficient evidence dismissal that felt less like vindication and more like a participation trophy. The firm welcomed me back with awkward handshakes and a clean slate memo, but the whispers persisted. Evelyn Harper, the sister who aired the family laundry in prime time. Revenge's afterglow faded fast, leaving a hollow that echoed louder than the original betrayal. Lila and I met in neutral territory, a park bench off the Truckee River, where ice skimmed the edges like fragile lies. The girls were with her, bundled in puffy coats, chasing geese with giggles that pierced the chill. "Auntie Evie," they squealed, piling into my lap with sticky hugs, oblivious to the fault lines beneath. Lila watched, arms crossed, her face a map of concessions, shorter hair, no makeup, the yoga-toned arms gone soft from stress-eating takeout. "Thanks," she said later, after the kids toddled off to the swings. "For not pushing harder. I know you could've." It was her pivot, subtle, the martyr's bow, implying I'd held the guillotine and chosen mercy. I bit back the retort, the one about the recording phone I'd smashed under my tire that night, evidence of her last gasp scheme. "We're even." I lied, because what else do you say when the scales balance crooked? But even was a myth, American as the dream it chased. Bradley's sentencing loomed like a storm front. Federal courthouse in downtown Reno, marble halls echoing with the clack of heels and the rustle of legal pads. I went, not for schadenfreude, but duty. Character witness for Lila's custody bid, vouching for the reformed mom who'd clawed her way from mule to minivan. The judge, a silver-haired hawk named Ramirez with a rep for splitting babies like cordwood, eyed us skeptically as Lila took the stand. "Mrs. Whitaker," he drawled, accent pure Texas via UNR law. "You've admitted to felony-level complicity in a narcotics ring at 14. How's that square with fit parent?" Her testimony was a tightrope walk, remorse laced with resilience, the script we'd rehearsed over hurried coffees. I was a kid in a broken home, Your Honor. Choices made in desperation. But I've owned them now, for my daughter's sake. She glanced at me, eyes pleading for the lifeline. I stood, palms sweaty on the Bible, and spun the yarn. Lila's my sister, sir. We've hurt each other, deep cuts, but blood heals. She's fought clean since, built a life from ashes. Lies. Half-truths, anyway. The girls needed stability, and spite had no place at that table. Ramirez leaned back, tinting fingers scarred from desk wars. Family's messy, Miss Harper. But the law don't bend for hallmark moments. He granted supervised visits, a win disguised as probation. Lila got weekends, Bradley the weekdays, a co-parenting détente enforced by social workers. She hugged me after, fierce and fleeting, whispering, "We did it. We." As if the chameleon hadn't slithered solo half the way. The twist hit like a sucker punch from the shadows, the kind that leaves you gasping and second-guessing the swing. 2 weeks post-hearing, Kowalski called. Not for coffee, but coffee at the station, his office a bunker of file cabinets and fluorescent buzz. Harper, sit. He slid a manila folder across the desk, thicker than a tax return. Inside, transcripts from Lila's full debrief, the unredacted confessions she'd buried in fine print. Turns out, the 98 runs weren't just kid desperation. Mom hadn't come back for a month on drug money alone. Lila had skimmed, pocketed cuts for a secret abortion fund, courtesy of a high school fling with the casino valet who'd knocked her up at 13. Dad knew. Covered harder because blood, but the OD kid? Collateral in her cover-up. The drop that went wrong because she'd diluted the coke to stretch her take. I'd lied for a lie within a lie, protecting not just Dad, but her erasure of a sibling we'd never meet. The secret she feared most? Not the dealing, but the ghost baby, the choice that made her the monster in her own mirror. Why tell me now? I asked Kowalski, voice ash dry, the room spinning like a bad slot pull. He shrugged, mustache twitching. Case closure. And she waved confidentiality. Said you deserve the full picture. Before she skips town. Skips. The word detonated. Lila's text that morning. Cryptic. Taking the girls for ice cream. Love you. Suddenly reeked of exit strategy. I raced to the McMansion, snow-slick roads betraying my tires, heart hammering a rhythm of dread. Door ajar, like an invitation to the void. Inside, half-packed boxes, the girls' rooms stripped to mattresses, a note on the kitchen island in her looping script. Evie, I'm sorry. Again, Bradley's poison, the courts. It's all too much. We're starting over, Canada, maybe. Don't follow. You're free now. Really. Free. The word mocked from the granite, beside a check. 50 grand, my share, of the alimony she'd clawed last week. Bait? Or genuine severance? The phone rang. Unknown Reno number. Bradley, slurring from county lockup. She cleaned me out, Eve. Took the offshore account, the passports. Bitch played us both. Flipped again, the ultimate pivot. Victim to victor, leaving scorched earth for the strong one to sift. I crumpled the note, the check, the illusions. Cops. Feudal. International flight with kids. A custody war I'd lose in extradition hell. Kowalski confirmed later. Border alerts up, but Lila was smoke. Vanished into the ether with fake IDs from God knows where. The chameleon's final molt. Months later, as spring thawed the river into tentative flow, I sat on that same park bench, alone now, feeding crumbs to geese that eyed me wary. The firm promoted me, irony's gift, to junior partner, handling the messy divorces that mirrored my own. No word from Lila, no postcards from Vancouver or wherever she'd surfaced. The girls? Ghosts in my dreams, gap-toothed grins fading like old Polaroids. Was it happy? Tragic? The twist debates itself. I avenged the betrayal, unearthed the secret that shattered her cage, but lost the family in the rubble. Readers split, cheer my unmasking, or curse the cruelty that orphaned nieces. Me? I walked the line, American gritty, wondering if the revenge was mine, or just another lie we told to survive. In the end, blood doesn't just bind, it bleeds. And some stains? They never wash out.